This is not my first time covering this topic, and it probably won't be the last. But battle passes and season passes and all of these different FOMO events have kind of infiltrated, I would argue, most video games. And a lot of video game genres have been completely ruined because of it. And I mean irreversibly ruined. There's no going back. You've opened Pandora's box. And this essentially leads us to the Fortnite problem. Now, at the end of the day, I will say this. I am not an extremist when it comes to most. And when it comes to this issue, I know some people will say none of this belongs in anything. It should never exist. There should be no live service games that exist at all. They should all die. All those games should just shut down and die. I don't really feel that way, but I do feel that this is something that should be used much fewer and much farther between than it actually is. And I think it's unfortunate to see where the video game landscape is nowadays and just how profitable and how, I would say, pushed this system is. And that's something we're going to talk about for a few minutes today, and I want to clarify a position on while also, kind of taking a look at some of the games this has affected. But if you do end up enjoying this video and you want to leave a like and subscribe, I always do appreciate that very, very much. Trying to keep growing these channels. And if you like the sound of my voice other than just this channel, I have several others in the description down below. So I will talk about that later. But I have a question today for you, which is there a video game or genre that you feel has been really, really damaged or hurt or made less than it was, whatever, in terms of systems like this, in terms of FOMO, fear of missing out, or in terms of battle passes and season passes? Because I can think of several off the top of my head. And I will get right into that, but I do want to say this. Fortnite, I have a little bit of a bias for, which I will admit, because I'm part of the Fortnite creator program, where I'm not paid to talk good about them, but when people use my Fortnite code, which I will show here because I am shameless, it does actually help my channel out quite a bit, and I do appreciate that. That said, I don't think just because a system is something that works in some games I don't think that means it should be in everything, especially if it's not free. The thing with Fortnite is the game is free. If you want to download and play Fortnite with basic default skins, you could do so. And there's ways to earn stuff, or you could buy a battle pass one time and keep riding off of the currency you earn from that and just not engage in microtransactions. You could do that. That's a free game. They obviously make a lot of money from people not doing that and buying skins. But in general, there is a big difference for me in between a game that is free, a game that is, and it utilizes this, a game that is free and predatory with its utilization of this, which that exists as well, where it's really pushing almost a gambling mindset, or games that are not even free and then also push these systems, which I think are the most egregious. Some of those that I can think of are games like sports games. NBA 2K is a game series that I think used to be very fun, and nowadays it's a game where I would argue over half of the functionality at least is tied to the internet, and when they pull the plug on the internet, you don't have a story mode anymore. You don't have any of your trading cards that you might have paid money for in the My Team stuff, and all of those sports games have gone that direction. That is a genre that I truly believe has been irreversibly damaged by this sort of mindset and ideology, by the FOMO, the pass, the gambling type gameplay of opening packs. These are things that didn't used to be pushed in that genre, but over time they became more and more profitable, they became more and more pushed, and now we're at a point where a lot of these games will shut down within a year and a half, and there are people who will have spent hundreds of dollars on those games in that time. And I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, screw them, they can waste their money however they want, because first off, I don't like pocket watching with people's money. Obviously it's your money. But secondly, the problem is that with a lot of these games, there is no competition. There's no other basketball game out there that someone can go to that's a better interface and deal and things like that. There's no better football game out there that someone can go to that's not as gambly or whatever you want to call it. Like with these, it's usually that company has a monopoly on it, whether it's 2K or whether it's EA, and then that's just basically what the option is. So that's already scummy enough, because if you're a sports fan, that's the only game that there is really for you in the modern day. But also, we've hit a point where, because that kind of thing is the only option in that genre, you see like live services terminated faster and faster, where you might buy those trading cards, they might last a year and a half, then the game shuts down. But this isn't just a problem with games like that, games that are in the sports genre. Shooters, they have really experienced this in recent years. Shooters have been something that, going all the way back to the PlayStation 2, I was a big fan of. Games like Medal of Honor. But games like that don't actually survive anymore. And why don't they survive? They don't survive because they're not one of the big few. They're not one of the uber profitable series like Call of Duty or Halo, or, when it actually is profitable and doesn't fall on its face, Battlefield. Games where they can charge and nickel and dime you. They can say, oh, you want to buy maps? That's where it started. You can buy expansion maps. But you knew what you were getting. You got that thing. And that's what it was. It was just extra content. But then it kept going further and further. And this is where I find people saying slippery slope is a logical fallacy to be kind of funny. Because there are a lot of examples of a slippery slope that actually exist and are real. The downfall, or I would say the decline in quality for bang for your buck of Call of Duty in particular, is a slippery slope. It started out with you buy the game, and that's the game. Then it went to you buy the game, and there's map packs. Okay, fair enough. You get some extra stuff you can play online with your friends. Then it went to you buy the game, you could buy map packs or not, and there's going to be some crates and stuff. Oh, all right, well, those aren't really affecting much. Okay. Then it went to, well, actually, maps are free because we don't want to split the player base anymore, and everybody applauded. But there's a huge caveat here. We're going to charge you for every skin under the sun. We're going to basically make it so the unlock system doesn't actually lead anywhere unless you want to buy things in our shop that are then going to be skins for the game. And that's going to be your progression system is, did you make $50 at, doing Uber Eats today? Okay, cool. Hand it over. Hand over the drug money. It's kind of like how it's treated. Literally, these microtransactions are drip fed to us like drugs. And there are even free games that I think do this more egregiously than others, like games that aren't paid. Obviously, paid is where I think it's the absolute worst, because you're paying for a full game, or you should be paying for a full game, but then they're adding this crap on top. But there are free games or, subscription-based games even too that do this. Like, I've noticed a lot of MMOs have gone in this direction. They used to have seasonal events, and sometimes you'd miss them, sometimes they'd come back, sometimes they wouldn't. But now even games like RuneScape that I grew up with, they're just filled with cosmetic microtransactions. There's a lot of things. There's chests you can buy, there's wheels you can spin, things like that. Where a lot of these ideas come from, by the way? They come from casinos. When you look at how your brain, and they've done studies on this, when you look at how your brain will respond to things like flashing lights when you do something right in a video game, like you get a big level up and it plays rock music and there's fireworks or something, it's like, that's a dopamine. It's like, oh, I did something good. Cool. You might think, and you might sit there and think, oh, this is just a stupid game. Your brain will still subconsciously react that way. And that's how your brain reacts when you go to the casino and you're playing slots. And maybe you're $10 down, but you win $1. That win triggers a dopamine rush. That's how these games function. When you do a game, even that's free, and there's like a gambling pull, like you might, pull a pack of cards or whatever to try to get a character, there's a dopamine rush that hits you when you get something good. That's how they get you. And I think that it's not like you can never have things like this. I mean, like, it's not like, oh, hey, there's no room anywhere for any kind of dopamine rush in video games. We wouldn't have video games. It's not like, oh, there's no room anywhere for chance-based things. But my problem is that this has become more and more egregious. It went from free games, like Fortnite, to games that were free, but far more egregious with chance-based draws, or trying to get you to pay money on little skins, things like that. And then it went further and further into paid games, to the point where I'd argue entire genres are compromised. Like the shooter genre is irreparably compromised by this. The sports genre is irreparably compromised by this. And I say irreparably because no executive is going to look at the money this brings in and then say, actually remove it. A video game developer who values art might, but no executive is going to. There's no going back on that. There will always be games that are filled with this forever now. And it's really unfortunate that, people are so greedy that they do see an example where it works. And I think there's even tons of room to criticize Fortnite on it too. But people will see an example that works for this, and they'll say that belongs in everything. And the same thing happened with Battle Royale, where everything wanted to have a Battle Royale for a while. It's just this entire industry is filled with trend chasers and not trend setters, because it's easier to copy somebody and try to make money off of their idea than it is to actually have your own. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, the people who really suffer are gamers. People who are maybe prone to gambling addictions, which I am. I know I am. This stuff can certainly work on me. People who are prone to, more, like maybe they're not as good with their money, like they're not as good at keeping track of their finances, things like that. And at the end of the day, can you say, oh, well, those are all personal problems? Yeah, sure you can. And you can just ignore this. But this is still something that's damaging this medium in general. Is there room for it? Are there places where it can work? Sure. I'm not saying you outlaw it, you get rid of it or anything like that. I've seen people call for that. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that this is becoming far too common, and it's being rewarded in far too many games. If you want to play a mobile game, you want to drop $10 here or there and it's free, no one's stopping you. Obviously, if you want to go buy NBA 2K for full price and do the same thing, nobody's stopping you. But I do think that there's actually a big difference in quality and value between the fact that you're expected to pay this huge amount of money to go in now in games, and then you're expected to experience and deal with this FOMO crap in those games too. It's unnecessary, and it's just, I personally think it needs to die down. And I am glad to see that there are games that have actually gotten backlash for this. Like games like Battlefront 2, when it first launched and EA shoved all that crap in, it got a lot of backlash. But I don't think these companies are smart enough to understand where that backlash comes from. Unfortunately, when a series fails to meet their demands, they never actually look like at why it failed. Medal of Honor for shooters was a great example of that. It was just, okay, we'll get rid of it because we own Battlefield 2. These executives are so quick to throw the entire thing away. It used to be called throwing away the baby with the bathwater. And it basically used to be the idea of instead of fixing the problem, you ditch the entire thing. That's what it feels like they're doing now. Instead of evaluating each case and saying, does this fit here, does it not? Why are we charging them more when we're already charging them for a game? Why are we pushing towards gambling? All these things. I just feel like it makes games less fun to play. And it's consistently pushed me more towards older video games and not actually supporting new video games at launch and not paying for new video games at launch because I feel they're not worth my money. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to leave, like, subscribe, I appreciate that very much. I have another channel in the description, which is, well, I have several, but one is Degenerate Plays. I play through games podcast style with my friends, talking with them over there, so we have a great time. If you like my voice, you might like that one, love to see you. We also have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where we sell coasters, keychains, trays, and more made out of recycled paper. We believe in upcycling and recycling, so what we do is we use comic books, manga, magazines, and more that have been damaged. They're either unable to be sold by stores or they're sold dirt cheap due to this damage. We take that paper, we actually transform it, repurpose it through a new medium into new art, and we recycle the rest. Code DJAY123, get you 10% off your first purchase there. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.